Your high school self, I've
Yeah.
heard about you talk about that, and you were, and when people reach out to me, young basketball players, a lot of the things they deal with is something you dealt with in high school. It sounds like that lack of confidence. That I'm going to take this shot and I know I'm good, but when I miss it, I can't take another one. I'm too fearful, and it
Yeah.
sounds like you had a balance of like you weren't fully confident in yourself as a basketball player, and you had maybe a coach that was looming over your shoulder.
Yeah.
Is there any advice you'd give to someone in that position now? Because I think that's one of the most common things in basketball and outside of basketball is like trusting your ability, having confidence, and not worrying about external opinions like a coach or a boss.
Yeah, it's tough, especially from a high school perspective, because you're looking at your elders, you're looking at adults as being the authoritative figure who knows exactly what to do and what to say. So it's hard. Like if I could talk to my younger self, I'd be like, hey, look, respect your coach, but understand that what they know or what they say isn't always right. And I think one thing that's really difficult for younger society or younger people is their willingness to become so passive to where they just take away, they strip themselves from all their confidence and just defer to everyone else. And I guess a big problem that we see here in Southern California is a lot of players become so passive because of one or two instances, whether it be a coach or a teammate or a cohort that will strip them of that confidence. They'll say, "Oh man, your socks don't match. Those are awful socks." And like that one little thing can turn that player into have them give a little bit of lack of swag or lack of confidence in themselves. And from a coaching perspective, one thing another thing that I would love to encourage younger players to do is make sure you can formally have a dialogue with that coach. Like, do not feel the passive behavior of saying like, hey, look, I have to accept, what you say. Like, respect what they say, but understand that there is room to have a conversation to clear the air, or at least clear your doubts that you might have. Because the second you start formulating doubts as a young player is the second that you start resenting that coach, and the second that you let your emotions take over how you're going to play when you get to a game. And a lot of high school kids are freaking emotional so freaking much. And when you get a high school kid who doesn't know how to control their emotions, just start playing in their feelings, it could be a bad recipe.
Yeah, and looking back with me and teammates alike, like no one really approaches coaches and has that dialogue. Why do you think it's so tough for people at that age to that 16 to 18-year-olds have trouble standing up for themselves in a way that's not like rebellion? It's either rebellion or silence, it seems like, rather than a nice healthy dialogue.
Because the whole coaching sphere has pride themselves on being that authoritative figure. So it's like from a trainer's perspective, like we're trying to shape the game. We're trying to get kids into a more comfortable position to understand the sport from literally the most detailed skill mechanics. So that way when they do get put in a coaching situation, they can have these conversations and they can bring more to a team than just a worker bee. Like we want to produce kids that are self-sufficient, kids that understand everything that has to do with this game. And this doesn't go just for kids, but for adults as well. So that way we can build a stronger community, a stronger society of the sport.
I've heard you talk about it before too, and I like this because someone who's had the success you've had, it's like cool to see that you never had your identity really caught up with how you performed in the sport in general. Like it seemed like from a young age you knew you were going to be an entrepreneur in some sense, and you had dreams outside of the game. And even now, still, it's like it's what you do, it's what you love, but it's not who you are.
Yeah.
And that's something I've tried to talk about before, and that's something a lot of people, including myself, like once I transitioned out of the game, I was like, oh shit, like now what? Who am I now? And I think a lot of people deal with that. Why do you think that's, like, I could say this all day long, but it doesn't hold the same merit that, Jordan Lawley saying, like, through all his success, saying that, like, basketball doesn't define me, I'm more than a basketball player.
Yeah.
Why do you think that's important, like, in this day and age? And do you think, like, too many people are caught up in the sense that I am just a basketball player?
Yeah. And a lot of it is our society saying basketball never stops, ball is life, grind 24/7, like, all these things. Like it's not the case. That is an over-exaggeration to get you to buy into their belief. And it's just a company trying to sell something. Like we have to understand that yes, I am my company. I am in a service industry where I'm selling myself. But I will never sell my soul for my company. So I built my brand on my faith, on my family, on my morals and beliefs. And it's something that's never wavered. Like once again, going back to sound like a broken record, going back to the foundation aspect, I knew who I was as a person, and I kept everything within my vertical. So I have my faith, my family, and my my morals that all build on my knowledge and my intellect of the sport. So nothing will intercept my first tier. Nothing will come close. Basketball does not touch my ground floor of my pyramid. Everything is built on top of it.
How'd you develop such a strong sense of belief of who you were?
My faith was once again a huge from a young age. My grandpa was a pastor, and we just grew up in the faith. I had a couple of events in my life that have happened that were traumatizing, and that I almost lost my life. And there continues to be things that I get put in where I can just see His glory and His goodness in everything. And a lot of times it takes those moments to really make you understand what it is that we're put on this life, on this world for. And I've had a couple of those in my life.
It's that deep trust. I love that. And
yeah.
Since you know who you are so well, if you were stripped of all things basketball, I'm just thinking of this question on the spot. What would you do? Would you do some sort of teaching outside of the game? Like, is that something you can put your headspace in? Like, if there was no basketball for you, for some reason, this is super hypothetical, what would you do?
Analyst, sports commentator,
Outside
like a lot of
basketball.
stuff. So I actually did something, believe it or not. I did something for the All-Star game last year. Not this one, but the past one. And then I also did Summer League. I did commentating I did full live broadcast commentating for the games.
Speaking of developing your ability to speak.
Yeah, that one was tough.
Yeah,
that one is very tough, to have a running dialogue with consistent, play-by-play filled with color commentating. It's very, very difficult, but I found out that I absolutely loved it. So we did a bunch of stuff on Twitch for the regular season games with the NBA, and then finished up with the broadcasting for that, and something that I loved doing. But I started up my first company when I was in high school, so I've always been
what company was that?
a property management company.
Oh, really?
So we managed my parents' rental property, just kept it real simple, and from that we turned it into a private investment firm. We invested in biotech companies down in San Diego, and then from that we'd flip houses. So I'm an entrepreneur by trade with how my father raised me. So I feel very blessed and privileged for my upbringing with that.
And how do you go about kind of feeding your brain in that sense? Like, an entrepreneur must stay on top of everything, have new ideas. How do you build your creativity muscle? How do you add to the garden of your mind, so to say?
A lot of it is just finding what what I love.
What you like to do.
I love the biotech space, and that's how we got involved with it. And there was my teammate at the time who was doing his, he had a senior thesis that he was doing at this company, and we're just fell into our lap with that. Hey, you just got to be ready. And that's a lot of part of it too is just knowing how to adapt, on the spot, knowing when to take advantage of a situation that might be fruitful. And I had always had this open mind where, it didn't have to be, I was never searching for anything, but I was always open to the fact that something perfect could land on my lap at any given moment. And I feel like so many people are trying to create the perfect scenario, the perfect situation for themselves, that they miss out on all these little opportunities along the way. And a lot of this, a lot of successful stories are based on the process, not on the end result.
So how do you go about pushing that through to someone in that younger generation, and myself included, without people always tell you, have your goal really specific, have your goal clear, and it's great to work towards something. But what you're saying goes back again to having that greater trust and enjoying the process, and basically you just stayed lean and stayed open to new opportunities, and kind of just day by day took it day by day, and then eventually you kind of trusted that something beyond yourself would take care of you, and then you would end up where you were supposed to be.
Yeah, so a lot of that has a little bit to do with a lot of that has to do with the fact that we're in a very evolving industry. For the basketball training space, it evolves and changes and shifts about every 3 to 5 years regarding how we teach our training style, regarding what our main business model, what pushes the needle for us, from DVD sales to online sales to membership model to team training to group. So it's constantly changing. So I've had the opportunity to develop a little bit of that belief and constantly stay fluid, never stay too ironclad to what your 10-year goal is. Like, I don't believe in 10-year goals because like I don't know where I'm going to be in 3 years,
Exactly.
So it's just like you got to stay a little bit more fluid. So believe it or not, it actually ties into the way that we train on the court. So when I started off, I was very hard structure. Had a little, like, because I knew nothing better. My college coach at the time, had a little piece of paper that he flipped over his belt. So I would literally approach every training session like that. I'd have a piece of paper that I flipped over my belt, and it had every 15-minute increments, mic and drill, left-hand layups, shooting mid-range, water, 3 minutes. And it was all this hard structure where I wasn't listening to the client that was in front of me. I wasn't paying attention to their growth process. I was only paying attention to my objective. So I was missing out on if Timmy or Janet or Joe was doing something incorrectly at that moment that they needed more focus on. I was just putting them in this monochrotic, pendulum of, hey, this is what you have to do because it has to fit within my schedule. And when I took myself out of that, I started learning that loose structure, where you kind of free flow. I have a concept or a mechanic in mind that I want to work on for this hour, and then I'm going to let the drill kind of come to us. I'm going to let the client dictate the pace and what we focus on. I let that take form, and that allowed me to get more invested in my client. There are going to be, opportunities to take the NBA game and implement it into, our players' lives. But the NBA game will dictate, just like the free flow of the sport. It'll dictate what college does. It'll dictate, then college will therefore dictate high school. High school dictates grassroots. So it starts from the top and then trickles down from there. So we've got to stay consistent with the flow of the NBA game.
So given everything we've talked about, what do you think is a good message you could give, the upcoming generation, whether a trainer, a basketball player, an entrepreneur, whatever it is? What are some things you, Jordan Lawley, would want, the people to know about the journey, about the climb, about your story? Is there anything you want to leave us with?
Find your voice, find your passion, stick with it, and continue to grow on it. And understand that your failures will make you who you are. And those fears, those things that you put in as obstacles are actually catapults for you in your life.
I love that. The obstacle is the way. I think that's a title of a book.
Yeah.
What's on the horizon for you? Like your business with you, what's next?
So I have a baby due May 31st, so I'm excited about that. Yeah, real pumped about that. So it's our second one on the way. So we're really excited. And that's kind of, the main forefront. And then we're actually finding a new facility right now at the end of the year. So that's kind of one of those hurdles or those obstacles that's, both exciting and exhilarating, but at the same time nerve-wracking and absolutely demoralizing because we're going to lose this amazing facility. But
It's an amazing facility.
It's amazing. Yeah, we absolutely love it. But it's been a blessing. It's been a privilege. And, these instances will help us. Like I said, we're going to shapeshift out of it. We're going to have new business models and different prongs to help us grow and continue to develop.
And you have a couple things out, though. I'll close out in a couple minutes, but you have a couple things out. You have a trainer program. You have a transformation program. Maybe tell me about those.
Yeah, so we have our JLL B-Ball Trainer's Guide to Success that just talks a lot of the same things that we talked about today, just more in depth with, the structure and how I built my business and how I grew my brand to, to what we do on a daily strategic, marketing plan for our posts, to how we grew our following, to how we run, the structure of our group sessions, private sessions, team sessions. And it just gives a lot of the trainers, those up-and-coming trainers, something to really hold on to and help on their path to success. And then we also do our transformation program where we have an online one that works on building or developing your body, which I put myself through, and it's a killer workout, but got my vert up, lowered my body fat percentage while increasing weight. And that was phenomenal for my game, absolutely phenomenal. But then we also do in-house transformations where we bring kids from all over the world, and that's like one of our bread and butters that we see the most return on investment for each client.
Something I'm passionate about is the access we have. So like being able to follow someone like you and then sign up for a course for like $40
Yeah.
From the best trainers in the world. What do you think about this whole online? We talked a little bit about the dangers of social media. People aren't communicating the way they should. They're getting sucked in, but how great do you think it is, the access that we have to some of the best education possible through video and through online?
It's amazing. And I think it will be even more amazing when people strip themselves from the fear of reaching out, because it is so easy to access everyone. Like, it's so easy for you to just hit me up, and like literally we made it happen right away. And it's so easy for somebody to Just reach out on a DM. Send me a DM if you want to train, and I will respond back saying, like, look, you want to come to one of our sessions? Great. Plop in, $60 a session, and you have an hour and 15 minutes with us. Like, it is that easy, but nobody puts themselves in that position to fail or to get rejected because they have that fear of rejection.
To get uncomfortable.
Put yourself out there.
I love that.
Yeah.
And then the last question is my favorite question. I get to be selfish. Assuming you would change nothing and assume your life panned out the way it was meant to, that higher trust we talked about. But given who you were at the age of 24, that's how old I am, what's a piece of advice you'd give yourself?
Oh, man. 24-year-old me. I was driving 31.
31. Oh, you're young.
Thank you. My body doesn't feel it. So 24-year-old me was driving around like a freaking madman, and I was wasting so much time of being in my car. I could have made it a lot more simplistic on myself, to tie myself with an organization, to streamline my efficiency and get more utility out of my day. So I always like to tell younger people, younger entrepreneurs, find ways to maximize your potential, maximize your output on a daily basis. Take, Tuesdays, Thursdays, or whatever, strip yourself in those days of doing purely reach out work, where you're sending hard emails to to other individuals that you want to interview, and then allocate the other days to something else. I struggle with that to start off, so I'd work 7 days a week, and I'd literally have 6 sessions spanning over an 11-hour period. So I wasn't maximizing my time correctly. The second is make sure you have value in whatever you offer. Okay, so when you go to reach out to somebody, don't make it about yourself. Don't highlight what you want to do to help build your business, but give them some form of value to help yours, or to help theirs. Like you offering me, the content, to give to my media partner, that was automatic value to me, and I thought, heck yeah, I'm going to use that for sure. Yeah. Like that is big time value, and that's something that allowed me to respond to you right away. Mm-hmm. And that's something that a lot of people don't really realize, because they hear this stigma, they have this stigma from others, like reach out. Don't just reach out and offer. Reach out and promote value. Reach out and let it known that you see an area that they can get better in, or you see something that they want, that they could have value in, and it's so much easier to connect to people.
That's incredible advice for me and for anybody on the climb with training business or entrepreneurs, so appreciate that.
Of course,
Jordan,
man.
I appreciate the time, man. This is super special for me to be able to talk to you. You're someone that I felt like I've known, through the digital world, but it's super cool to sit down with you, and I love your energy, and I love what you're doing, man.
It means a lot to me, Max. Thank you so much, man.
Thank you, man.
Yeah.